Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features the Uncanny X-Men number 159, cover dated July 1982. And the cover here, it's a very designy cover, very eye-catching and striking by Bill Sienkiewicz. He is the guest artist for the interior comic also. And here we have the X-Men facing off against a silhouette of Storm. And in the background here, this is a really cool craft effect. A colour hold of Storm laughing maniacally, eyes ablaze, and with those prominent canine teeth as well. And so what's the implication of that? Well, we'll have to open up the issue to find out. One last thing to note, Bill Sienkiewicz inking himself here on the cover. And of course Sienkiewicz's style at this time, this is around Moon Knight 21, he was the artist on that, but he is guesting here on the X-Men. His style very much influenced by, very much imitative of Neil Adams. That will change in time, of course, and most particularly in his subsequent collaboration with Claremont on the New Mutants coming up in a few years' time. So nice splash page here, and the title of the story is Night Screams, and the creative team, Chris Claremont, author, Bill Sienkiewicz, guest penciler, Bob Wiacek on inks, Tom Morzakowski, letterer, and Glynis Wine, colorist. So where this is located is it's Manhattan, and the X-Men are arriving into the apartment of Misty Knight, but they find someone there who is not Misty Knight, and that takes them by surprise. And so you can really see here some of the strengths of Sienkiewicz's art at this time. The sense of design, having the X-Men coming in here from the right, this character that they're not expecting over here on the left hand side, and Nightcrawler teleporting in and being surprised. And you really get a sense of a great command of body language and expression from this splash page too. So let's continue. We'll get some explanations here that this woman does indeed live in the apartment. Her name is Harmony Young, and she's a top fashion model, one of the top fashion models in New York. So now Nightcrawler is charming her, kissing her hand, and Wolverine's fed up and he's going to scrounge himself a brew. Meantime, Storm says, "We had a standing invitation from Misty to be her guests if the need ever arose. We've been out of touch recently because they were away on a space adventure with the Starjammers. We did not know she was sharing the apartment. We do not mean to intrude. Ms. Young will be on our way." But she says, "No problem. If it's okay with Misty, it's okay with me." And then a little charming piece from herself. "I like having guys around, especially when they're cute." And that gets right up Kitty Pryde's nose because, of course, she doesn't want anyone competing for Colossus with her. So Wolverine here, we've got a bit of expositional dialogue from him regarding Kitty. He says, "You've got a date with your folks this evening, kiddo. Remember, that's why we're here, and you sure can't meet them dressed like that." So now we have a very Claremont moment where the fashion model takes them to her clothes closet, and we get all this dressing up and trying on of various different garbs until they emerge here looking very unexceptional in terms of their style. Like, Sienkiewicz really hasn't done anything amazing here with Storm or Kitty Pryde's style. And Nightcrawler's reaction is a bit over the top. "Magnificent," he says. And Wolverine too, "Worth the wait, kid." And that's no lie. I don't know what he's looking at and what he thinks. But it's nighttime, and you can see the mood building with the street light here and the fog shrouded village. So they're going in search of a taxi, the cares and worries of recent days pushed aside for the moment by the simple joy of being alive. But there's going to be a twist, of course, coming. But then, before that happens, we have a cutaway to Rio Diablo, the remote stretch of New Mexico desert that Alex Summers, once an X-Man made a home, and where his brother Scott has come to visit. And not only that, but also their father, Corsair, who has recently revealed his true identity to Scott. And in the previous issue, Scott and Corsair arrived at Alex and Lorna's house out in the desert. So here they're having dinner, and And Cyclops gets to the key question about Christopher Summers. Does he plan to, what are his plans, and will he stay with them on Earth? And Corsair says, for a while, Scott, I'm glad to see you and Alex. We've a lot of catching up to do, but I've been away too long. I feel so out of place on Earth. 20 years behind the times, yet light years ahead of them. And so Cyclops says, if when you want you leave, what about us? Would you want us to come with you? Scott, Alex, my dear boys, I don't know, he says. So that's kind of seeding the possibility for Cyclops, who has been a little bit lost since Jean Grey's death in issue 137, to maybe leave and go away with his father, maybe Alex too. And we're left hanging in respect of that, because the scene switches back to New York, telephone goes, and Kitty's just calling in to say that she is fine, that her folks are okay. She wants to speak with Storm, and Storm's not back. She never arrived back at Misty Knight's apartment, and so the X-Men realize something's up there. Nightcrawler makes the point, but if she isn't here, where is she? Why hasn't she telephoned? What could have happened to her? And here we see her lying, apparently unconscious, in an alleyway. That's so well rendered by Sienkiewicz, inked by Wiacek there. Really nice effect there of the light. The hatching lines. Very nice work. Let's continue though. So Storm is picked up and brought to St. Vincent's Hospital, and the police arrive here, who found her on the street. They're wondering whether she's alive, and the medic here says barely, it'll be touch and go whether she survives the night. From the victim's wallet, the police gain her New York address. A phone call is made, and very soon after that, two of her friends arrive in civilian garb. So it's Colossus and Wolverine, and they ask the doctor here, Dr. O'Hara, about Storm, what happened. So the doctor says the police theorize a mugging, possibly by a maniac. She wasn't robbed or molested. And here we go. Here we are getting into the core of this particular offbeat issue. The doctor says her throat was slashed. Now, and she continues, the damage turned out to look far worse than it actually was. There was some blood loss, but nothing critical. She regained consciousness a while ago and gave the police a statement. We wanted to give her a whole blood transfusion, but we couldn't match her type. Her tests produced some extraordinary results. I've never seen anything like them. I'd like to investigate further. And Logan thinks here, the mutant genes that give us our powers also make our blood unique. That's an interesting little bit of information that Claremont has thought out regarding the mutants. If this doc keeps poking around, she'll realise what Roro is, and possibly who she is. The X-Men's cover will be blown wide open. So in the previous issue, the X-Men infiltrated the Pentagon and deleted the federal files on them. They now consider themselves outcasts, not just outcasts, but also outlaws. And they're operating covertly. So that's what Wolverine's concerned about there. But when they arrive into Storm's hospital room, she's up and about, and the doctor is taken aback. What the blazes are you doing? Climb back into bed this instant. But Storm says, I feel very foolish after all we've been through to fall prey to a common mugger. I do not mean to cause you trouble, Dr. O'Hara, but I really feel much better. So Storm is worried about compromising the X-Men. And then she's looking out the window and she sees in the fog eyes. It appears like eyes. No, just my imagination, she thinks. And then she thinks, the night. I love it so. And that reminds me of that, I think it was around this time, 1981 or thereabouts, that Laura Branigan song about the nighttime as well. It just kind of popped into my head there with this little scene, because it was kind of the thematic was something comparable. In any case, the doctor here says to Storm, suit yourself about leaving. So at the apartment, Aurora is quickly put to bed in Misty's room, but she's adamant that she's okay. Nightcrawler switches off the light, and then she has a restless time, sweating in the bed. Her senses sharpen, becoming unbearably acute. A voice calls to her. She ignores it for as long as she's able. Now this looks very much like the route that Sienkiewicz was going to take with his art, a little bit experimental here. Whether some of it is done with ink, but I wonder is some of the shading here done with a dry brush maybe? Or is it pencils? Is it graphite? And did he give instructions to Wiacek in terms of how to ink this exactly? It's interesting, very interesting. It'd be nice to see the original art for this particular page. So she rises from her bed, her hand trembles as she reaches for the bay window, not with fear, but with anticipation and a desire beyond her wildest imaginings. And then the window opens, she says, "Enter freely and of your own will, but to whom?" Her blood burns white, hot within her, and as the fog swirls around her, enshrouding her, caressing her, she smiles with a wanton, inhuman, supernal joy. So Claremont always exploring the darker side of the characters, this shadow side to the characters, and his device in this issue for doing that is, well, we'll see very shortly what's happened to Storm. So the next morning, Kitty arrives at Misty Knight's apartment. She's got her suitcase there and her teddy bear, and she realizes there's something up with Storm. So you can see the expressions that Sienkiewicz has drawn on the men's faces there. And so she goes into she's about to go to Storm's room. Logan says to her, "She was attacked Friday night, kiddo. We thought she was okay, but she isn't getting any better. We don't know why, and she won't let us call a doctor or take her to the hospital." So Kitty phases through the wall into Storm's room and pulls open the curtains, which hurts Storm. "The curtains, child," she exclaims. "Close them, I beg you. The sunlight hurts." Look at the way that Sienkiewicz has rendered the expression on her face there. It really does look that she is in pain and suffering. And so now we get a little bit of a heart-to-heart here between Kitty and Storm. And Kitty notices this strange tie around Storm's neck. "You're wearing a lovely scarf. It's pure silk. Is it Harmony's?" "This? No, it's mine, a gift from an admirer who came in the window the previous night. But how can that be? He's a figment of my imagination. A phantom haunts my dreams." And here we have a Gothic D monogrammed on the silk scarf. So Kitty says she didn't mean to upset Storm. Storm says that she's very tired. "The lamplight flashed on my Star of David," thinks Kitty to herself, and Aurora flinched. Aversion to sunlight, to religious artifacts, anemia, dreams. This is ridiculous. What am I thinking? The readers too, wondering about whether Storm might be a vampire. So Storm pushes Kitty away. Kitty phases out of the bedroom wall, crying, and Logan here thinks, the kid's crying. Throat wound, slashed across the jugular, but not deeply enough to puncture the vein. Why? So we couldn't see that in the art here, so we're only learning that from what Logan's thinking. So she's heading out to run errands. That's her little cover. And Logan left wondering what the blazes was that about. But he should be investigating. He should be going in to find out what happened instead of leaving it at that. And then with the night comes a fog to blanket Greenwich Village, one that seems almost alive as it swirls through eerily deserted streets to concentrate about a certain brownstone off Washington Square. And I like the motif of the window throughout this issue, and she opens the window again to admit her lover. He does not keep her waiting. So who is this aristocratic looking figure? Well, he says to her, "Aurora, your name means beauty. Through me, Wind Rider, that beauty shall remain unchanged till the end of time. Through me, you shall have the immortality of a goddess. You shall have the immortality a goddess deserves. Do you wish this?" She says yes, and he says good. So again, this is Claremont exploring that dark side of the characters. Why should she say yes? It's not because she has been hypnotized by Dracula, because it is Dracula, as he reveals here, but because she has that dark shadow side to herself, as every character that Claremont writes in his original run is revealed to have such a dark side, such temptation to do delicious and dark things. So Dracula here says, "Come to me, woman, Yield to my dread embrace. Join your blood and life and soul to mine. As with a kiss, I make you the bride of the Prince of Darkness, Dracula. And I like the way that Sienkiewicz here has whipped up a border, like a little panel here that connects Dracula's teeth and fangs with Storm's throat. And then that look on her face of wanton joy, to use Claremont's phrase from earlier. Yeah, this is a nice page. And it makes me think, because this is a done-in-one story, except that there's a sequel in the annual that is produced later in the year, also drawn by Sienkiewicz. But I wonder if when Dave Cockrum had to take a break from the art chores, Dave Cockrum wasn't a fast artist like the likes of John Byrne. So when Dave Cockrum needed a break from the monthly schedule, and Sienkiewicz was slated to draw this issue, did that set Claremont thinking, well, what do I want to do with Bill Sienkiewicz as my artist? Something moody like you get in Moon Knight. And then he got the idea of bringing Dracula in as a character, because Dracula at this time was a character in Marvel Comics. And of course there was that famous run on the character by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. So here he is, about to suck on Storm's neck, and then he's interrupted by Kitty Pryde. And of course she's dressed like Van Helsing. I may be Kid Buster, but I've helped trash nastier villains than you. I'm an X-Man and we take care of our own. Beat it, creep, or suffer the consequences. So she's brandishing a crucifix at Dracula, and initially he's concerned, but then, and this is an interesting little twist here, wait, the very presence of that holy object should be anathema to me, yet it has absolutely no effect. Little fool, you've outsmarted yourself. The cross has no power over such as I, if the wielder does not believe it. You're no Christian, but a Hebrew. And so he grabs her by the throat, and his hand, it burns her. So why is that? Around my neck, my silver star of David. And the implication is that she does have belief in the Star of David, and so he's burnt his hand off her. That's interesting little things revealed in the course of this action sequence. So Storm punches Kitty and flies up away with Dracula, who's transformed into his bat form as well. And she says to Kitty, do not follow, do not try to save me, you cannot. And if you try, you will merely walk before your time through the gates of death. Forget me and pray that we never meet again. So Kitty's crying here. This is a really nice panel, again with the window just wide open and the breeze blowing in as well. So she explains to them about what happened and shows them the silk scarf with the D for Dracula monogram. And Nightcrawler here says, in my homeland Bavaria, we've learned from bitter experience not to take vampires, especially Dracula, lightly. So what does Wolverine say here? He says about helping Storm before it's too late. He says, it won't be easy picking Roro's scent out of the atmospheric soup surrounding this city. That'll tax even my tracking abilities to the limit. Still, what's life without a little challenge, eh? So it's Wolverine who's going to help the team track Storm and helps them track her a couple of miles uptown. So they're in Central Park, but where are they in Central Park? To our right is Belvedere Lake, and the Great Lawn up ahead is Belvedere Castle. That's where Storm is. So Kitty's ready to roll, but Logan says, hold it, something's screwy. It's too quiet, too still. On your toes, troops, we're not alone. So now Dracula attacks, and of course he has control over the creatures of the night, like rats here, and this wolf as well, or a wild dog. Impossibly large, incredibly vicious, as hungry for blood as their undead master. But as they attack, so do the X-Men. So Nightcrawler's first to jump at Dracula, but he punches Nightcrawler in the jaw. Wolverine here takes out the animals that are under Dracula's control. And now we're going to get a fastball special, but in a fluid, smooth motion, Colossus scoops up his fellow mutant and heaves him at Dracula. But at the last instant, the vampire lord transforms himself into mist. You can see that there in the art. So very nice. Laughing as Wolverine sails helplessly through him, claws cutting empty air. And when the X-Man lands, the dogs are waiting. So Colossus punches at Dracula, but Dracula's got super strength. You may certainly try, my young Russian comrade, but though your body is solid steel and your strength prodigious, Dracula says, it is Dracula who shall ever prevail. So he is super strong. So the fight continues here, and then Nightcrawler improvises a cross with some broken branches. And of course, Nightcrawler is a true believer. He's Catholic, and he has faith. And so that hurts Dracula. It's the only thing that worked against him here. Otherwise, the X-Men were in big trouble. So Dracula says he's far from beaten. My powers are legion. With but a thought, I can summon lightning from the heavens. So Nightcrawler evades the lightning strikes. Meanwhile, Kitty Pryde, still dressed as Van Helsing, makes her way into the castle towards this coffin. She douses the coffin with holy water, and then she thinks, serve him right to be caught in the open at sunrise and burned to a crisp. But if Ororo isn't here, so where is Storm? And then she's slapped and phases through a wall. And that's a brilliant little panel there, this upshot of a vampiric Storm. How nice of you to visit, she says. So Kitty here is alarmed. If Ororo's standing here, she can't be dead though, she thinks. And if she isn't dead, she can't be a vampire. The transformation must begin while you're still alive, and the process is warping Ororo's mind. This is another great little panel here. Great, interesting choice to put all of her flesh in silhouette, and then just the focus goes on her teeth and those red eyes. It's excellent. So Kitty here, crying with the stake, says to Storm, fight him. You told me you were a goddess, consecrated to life. Prove it. Reach within you to your heart and soul. Fight him. If you can't, if you want my life so badly, then take it. I won't try to stop you. So is that going to work? We switch scenes outside to the X-Men still trying to get the better of Dracula. He's hitting them with lightning strikes, and it looks like he's triumphed over the trio of X-Men. And then Storm arrives, and of course we're wondering whether she has killed Kitty or not. And Dracula says, such courage, such audacity. Your mutant comrades are indeed splendid foes. What will you do with them? Storm asks. Slay them. And she says that Dracula is something that looks like she's going to acquiesce. That's another great image of Vampire Storm there by Sienkiewicz. So turn the page and there's a twist. So she reveals herself in her X-Men costume and attacks Dracula there. There's a colour hold, another piece of craft colour hold there, as he is hit by the lightning and transforms into his bat form. And he execrates her. Traitorous witch, you'll pay for that. Enjoy your freedom, Wind Rider. It will not last long. We've shared blood. We are bound, one heart, one mind, one soul, for all eternity. But she maintains that his hold on her is broken. And he says, you cannot return to what you were any more than you can deny what you've become. That may be so, but I can ensure that your evil never destroys or taints another life. So they fight. They end up blasting through into this restaurant. And he's maintaining all the time that he's her lord and master, and demands that she bare her neck to him. But she says, no, I defy you. I deny you. I shall not kill, and you cannot force me. He grabs one of the customers in the restaurant, and he threatens her to drop the weapon, the stake she's holding, or I'll rip this cow's throat out. Let her go, Dracula. None shall die because of me, she says. So she drops the stake. And here we are coming to the end. He says, that attitude will change once you've joined me as my vampiric consort. I meant what I said. None shall die because of me. I will be true to myself, she says. I will not shed the blood of innocence, but to save them I will destroy you, regardless of how long it takes or the price I must pay. I will end your reign of terror. And he says, I do not wish us to be foes. How can we be anything else? She replies, you may transform me into a vampire, you may even slay me, but you will never own me. I was born free, vampire, and free I will remain. And this is what actually works the conclusion of the battle. Like, this persuades him. I knew from the moment I tasted your blood that you were a woman of rare beauty, rare courage, rare strength. Those qualities attracted me to you. Now they have defeated me. When I lived, I was a prince. You were one of a handful of women I've met since, worthy of being my queen. So this is rather reminiscent of Doctor Doom about a year earlier, from that storyline. Also taking a shine to Storm and considering her a worthy, equal, potential partner for him. And it's the same with Dracula now. He says, I offer wonders beyond imagination, but I will not, I find I cannot force you to accept them. You've earned Dracula's respect and hence your life. You won't escape that easily, she says. And he says, don't push your luck as he transforms into the bat. The world is vast. You could search for a score of lifetimes and never find even a trace of me. When next we meet, if that night ever comes, and it will in the annual, it will be in a time and place of my choosing. Till then, farewell. So that's the end of the issue. Nice art on this page, only 4 panels, so it gives Sienkiewicz a chance to play around with the images and the angles, and I like the way that we get this kind of top-down shot of Dracula bowing towards Storm in this particular panel. So she arrives, Kitty's delighted that she's cured, they hug and cry, and then they go back to Misty Knight's apartment. And then the phone goes, and it's Moira MacTaggart, and we're back into the overarching storyline. I want you and the others back on the island immediately. That's out in the Bermuda Triangle. Collect Scott on the way. Professor Xavier has taken a turn for the worse. So that's on account of his being unconscious from a couple of issues ago. He still hasn't regained consciousness, and it's something to do with the Brood. So that's what's going to get kind of narrated and explored in the very next issue. Chutes and Ladders, the game of superhero madness. Okay, and there's no letters page in this particular issue. So I do hope that you enjoy this review and commentary on a done-in-one offbeat horror story of the X-Men. Very strange to see Dracula in an X-Men comic, but a good fit for the guest artist Bill Sienkiewicz. Let me know what you think of this issue in the comment section of the video, and if you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.